What's up, guys? Welcome back to Book Demystified. I'm really glad you're here because today's book, Radical Confidence by Lisa Bilyeu, dives into something we've all experienced but rarely talk about. That crushing feeling when you look around the room and think, I don't belong here. Everyone else knows something I don't. You know that moment when you're sitting in a job interview or about to launch that side hustle, or even just walking into a room full of people who seem way more put together than you, and that voice in your head starts whispering, "Who are you kidding? You're not qualified for this." I'm not gonna lie, just thinking about it makes my chest tight because we've all been there, haven't we? Lisa Bilyeu's story is wild because she went from being a housewife in Los Angeles for 8 years, 8 freaking years, to co-founding Quest Nutrition, a company that went from zero to $1 billion in 5 years. But here's the thing that hit me hardest about her journey. She didn't suddenly become qualified. She didn't wait for someone to hand her a certificate that said, "You're ready now." She learned something that most of us never figure out, that feeling unqualified isn't a stop sign, it's just information. And what if I told you that the very thing that makes you feel like you don't belong might actually be your greatest strength? Let me tell you about the day Lisa realized she had been living someone else's life. Picture this. She's married to Tom Bilyeu, who would later become her business partner, and she's doing what so many of us do. She's shrinking herself to fit into what she thinks she's supposed to be. She had these massive dreams about working in Hollywood, making films, creating something meaningful. But somewhere along the way, she convinced herself that those dreams were too big for someone like her. Sound familiar? Maybe it's not Hollywood for you. Maybe it's starting that YouTube channel, launching that business, going back to school, or finally asking for that promotion. We all have that thing we want, but tell ourselves we're not ready for. The breaking point came when Lisa looked at her life and realized she had become completely invisible, even to herself. She was supporting her husband's dreams, which is beautiful, but she had completely abandoned her own. And here's where the book gets real. Lisa says the hardest part wasn't admitting she wanted more. It was admitting that she had been lying to herself about being okay with less. You ever get that feeling when you're scrolling Instagram late at night, seeing other people living the life you secretly want, and you catch yourself making excuses for why you can't have it too? That was Lisa, except she was doing it for 8 years straight. Hey, if you're getting value from these summaries and want to help us keep going, you can support us in a few simple ways. Subscribe, join as a member, or grab the book using our affiliate link below. And if you're feeling generous, you can even leave a tip via the thanks button available on the video. Every bit helps us bring more content like this your way. Now here's where Lisa's transformation gets interesting, and it's going to challenge everything you think you know about confidence. Most of us think confidence means feeling sure of ourselves, right? Like those people who walk into rooms like they own the place, never doubting, never hesitating. But Lisa learned something that completely flipped that idea on its head. She calls it radical confidence, and it's not about feeling qualified, it's about acting despite feeling completely unqualified. Think about it like this. Imagine confidence isn't a feeling you wait for, but a muscle you build by doing scary things anyway. Lisa started practicing this when she decided to get involved in Quest Nutrition, even though she knew absolutely nothing about the supplement industry, nothing about business, nothing about running a company. She felt like a fraud every single day, but she showed up anyway. Here's the part that really got to me. Lisa talks about how she used to wait for permission to want things. Permission from her family, from society, from some invisible authority figure who would tell her it was okay to dream big. But she realized that permission was never coming. Nobody was going to tap her on the shoulder and say, "Hey Lisa, you're qualified now to pursue your dreams." And the same goes for you and me. Nobody's coming to tell us we're ready to start that business, write that book, make that career change, or put ourselves out there. We're all just figuring it out as we go. And the people who seem like they have it all together, they're scared too. They're just moving forward with the fear instead of letting it paralyze them. Lisa's approach to building this radical confidence comes down to what she calls evidence-based confidence. Instead of waiting to feel confident, she started collecting evidence that she could handle hard things. Every time she did something that scared her and survived it, that became proof that she was stronger than she thought. It's like building a resume of your own resilience. Remember when you were terrified about that first day of college, or that first job, or moving to a new city, but you did it anyway and figured it out? That's evidence. The problem is we tend to forget our own track record of being brave.
But here's where Lisa gets really honest about the ugly parts of growth that nobody likes to talk about. She admits that building radical confidence meant disappointing people, setting boundaries, and sometimes being called selfish by people who were comfortable with the smaller version of herself. When she started getting serious about her own dreams and ambitions, some people in her life didn't love it. They preferred her when she was supportive but invisible, helpful but not too ambitious. This hits different when you realize how many of us stay small not because we're afraid of failure, but because we're afraid of outgrowing the people around us. The business side of Lisa's story is incredible, but what I love most is how she talks about the identity shift that had to happen first. Before Quest Nutrition became a billion-dollar company, Lisa had to stop introducing herself as Tom's wife and start seeing herself as a co-founder, as an entrepreneur, as someone with valuable ideas. That transition from supporting character to main character in your own life is terrifying, because it means taking responsibility for your dreams instead of hiding behind other people's expectations of you. One of the most powerful concepts Lisa shares is about redefining failure. Most of us see failure as evidence that we don't belong, that we were right to feel unqualified. But Lisa learned to see failure as data, as information that helps you get better. She talks about failing forward, which means every mistake becomes a stepping stone instead of a reason to quit. When Quest Nutrition was just getting started, they made so many mistakes: product formulations that didn't work, marketing strategies that flopped, manufacturing disasters that cost them money they didn't have. But instead of seeing these as signs that they should give up, Lisa and Tom treated them as expensive but valuable education. What really struck me about Lisa's journey is how she learned to separate her identity from her circumstances. Just because she was a housewife didn't mean she was only capable of being a housewife. Just because she didn't have a business degree didn't mean she couldn't learn business. Just because she felt scared and unqualified didn't mean she actually was unqualified. She realized that feelings aren't facts, and the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you're capable of has more power than any external circumstance. The book also dives deep into something we don't talk about enough: how success can be just as scary as failure. As Quest Nutrition grew and Lisa became more visible as a leader and entrepreneur, she had to deal with imposter syndrome on a whole new level. Now she wasn't just worried about failing, she was worried about not deserving the success she was achieving. It's like that moment when you get the promotion or the opportunity you've been wanting, and instead of celebrating, you panic because you're convinced they made a mistake choosing you. Lisa's solution to this is what she calls owning your story. Instead of letting other people define who you are and what you're capable of, you become the author of your own narrative. You stop waiting for external validation and start validating yourself based on your actions, your growth, and your commitment to showing up even when you're scared. It's about becoming your own biggest believer instead of your biggest critic. Here's what I think is the most practical takeaway from this whole book. Lisa teaches that radical confidence isn't about eliminating self-doubt, it's about changing your relationship with it. Instead of seeing doubt as a reason to stop, you start seeing it as a sign that you're growing, that you're pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone. The goal isn't to never feel scared or unqualified. The goal is to feel scared and unqualified and do it anyway, because that's where all the good stuff happens. As I was reading this book, I kept thinking about all the times I've held myself back because I didn't feel ready, because I was waiting for some magical moment when I'd suddenly feel qualified and confident. But Lisa's story shows us that nobody feels ready. Everybody's figuring it out as they go, and the only difference between people who achieve their dreams and people who don't is that some people are willing to be uncomfortable long enough to grow into who they want to become. The truth is, you're probably more qualified than you think, more capable than you believe, and more ready than you feel. But even if you're not, Even if you really are starting from zero with no experience and no connections, that's still not a reason to wait. Because radical confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to be imperfect in public while you figure it out. And maybe, just maybe, that feeling of being unqualified isn't holding you back. It's getting you ready to surprise yourself with what you're actually capable of.